What is the perfect time for a relationship to become official? For some, it happens when you introduce your partner to your friends and family. For others, it means moving in together or making other big changes. Well, 21-year-old Lilie James was also testing the waters, and she was in a 5-week relationship with a colleague of hers. But it wasn't working out, and the pair went their separate ways. But days later, when Lilie's lifeless body was found in the very place where she worked, everyone was left shocked, confused, and terrified. What had happened? Who did this to Lilie? Where was the perpetrator? Well, once the investigation unfolded, dark and baffling details came to light. The case of Lilie James is very recent, having taken place just last year. But it doesn't take away from the fact that it was terrifying and left people all over the world wondering whether even their workplaces were safe for them or not. Welcome to True Crime Stories. If you're new here, I'm your host, Ty Knotts. I post new true crime documentaries every single week. No hoopla, no unnecessary drama, just true crime. So if you're into that, hit that subscribe button. It's totally free and keeps you up to date with all of my future videos. Lilie James was born on May 21st, 2002, to parents Jamie and Peta James in Sanssouci in New South Wales. Lilie had a younger brother named Max, and Sanssouci was a scenic and quaint residential area, with numerous beaches surrounding a genuinely beautiful plot. So this was the suburb where baby Lilie opened her eyes, and she fit right in with the town. Very much like Sanssouci, Lilie was vibrant, full of energy, independent, and stood out from the crowd. Lilie attended the Danebank Anglican School for Girls and graduated in 2020, and when it was time to choose her major, she knew exactly what she wanted to do. Lilie enrolled in the University of Technology in Sydney, and she studied sports business. See, one thing about Lilie is that she loved having her plate full. She loved sports, dancing, performing, and spending time with her family and friends. To top off all of this, she was also a water polo coach at St. Andrew's Cathedral School. Water polo was something that ran in the James family. Lilie's father was also a water polo coach, and Lilie wanted nothing more than to follow in her father's footsteps. It's safe to say that Lilie loved this job, and according to the students under her wing, they loved their water polo coach too. But Lilie could have never imagined that this dream job of hers would also be her last. While she was coaching at St. Andrew's Cathedral School, Lilie met several different faces, but one face in particular caught her eye: Paul Thyssen. Paul was sweet and charming in his own right, but Paul's family could be described in one word: rich. Paul's parents were bigwigs of the corporate world, and they were living a very privileged and affluent lifestyle. But even with their demanding jobs and crazy work hours, Paul's parents gave him all the love and attention that he needed. Paul was the apple of his parents' eye, and he was defined as a composed, calm, and overall fun guy. In 2015, Paul went to attend St. Andrew's Cathedral School. He later became a sports captain and part of the school leadership team. He was also working as a cricket and hockey coach and an after-hours coordinator at St. Andrew's Cathedral School. He was also listed as the hockey coach at St. Vincent's College in Potts Point. And if that wasn't enough, Paul was also enrolled in a Master of Teaching program and had hopes of becoming a PE teacher. Needless to say, just like Lilie, Paul was a very busy guy. At the time of the case, Paul was living in a semi-detached house with 3 other people. According to his housemates, Paul was a quiet person. He didn't interact with a lot of people, and he mostly kept to himself. Paul and Lilie started out as friends after casually meeting at St. Andrews, but one thing led to another, and they were soon romantically involved as of September of 2023. According to Lilie's friends, she didn't want anything serious and was just looking for a few casual get-togethers. Apparently, Paul was also on the same page. Lilie and Paul's relationship was also secretive in the beginning, as Lilie didn't want rumors to spread at the school, as it's safe to say that a no-strings-attached romance wouldn't be the best image for a Christian school, if word were to get out. But Paul and Lilie's friends knew about their relationship. Now, Lilie and Paul's relationship was not serious by any means. They'd only been dating for about 5 weeks before Lilie decided to call things off. Now, we don't know for sure why Lilie called things off, but rumors have been spread that claim that Paul may have been controlling, and Lilie wasn't into that. Now, I wish I could tell you that Paul took the breakup well, And I mean, on the surface he did, and he wasn't violent, nor did he try to persuade Lilie to get back together with him. But Paul, harboring a fragile ego, was livid on the inside. Paul couldn't believe that Lilie had broken up with him. Paul, being a charmer, had never had a problem with ladies before, so Lilie breaking up with him, well, it wasn't something he was used to. But something that he also wasn't used to was his ex-girlfriends going missing. But that's exactly what happened. Just a few short days after their breakup, Lilie vanished. On October 25th, 2023, Lilie spent the morning with her parents eating breakfast, catching up, and watching TV. And then she left for her coaching shift at St. Andrew's Cathedral School. Now, at the time, St. Andrew's was hosting some very important exams in the school gymnasium, and there were tables set up for students coming in the next day. These exams altered Lilie's schedule slightly, but she was still expected to come home around her usual time. But she didn't. Her parents waited hours for her to show up, but they never heard a single word from her. They tried calling, texting, anything, but couldn't get a response. This was incredibly unlike her and completely out of the blue. Not knowing what else to do, Lilie's parents filed a missing person report. Now, a missing person report was certainly alarming for the police, but they received a much more alarming phone call just a few hours later, one that sent them straight into action. See, the caller told the police that they needed to go to St. Andrew's because there was apparently a body in the gymnasium bathroom. At the same time, Lilie's dad, Jamie, also got a text, and it was from none other than Lilie. Alleviated but still worried, Jamie checked the message that said, "Come to school, trouble." Jamie was immediately alert because not only was the message vague and alarming, but it wasn't how Lilie would normally talk. Nonetheless, Jamie replied back asking if she was all right, and he made his way to the school. But he couldn't believe what he saw upon entering the premises. Police cars, red and blue lights, crime scene tape, and officers littered the entrance of the school. A frantic Jamie wanted to go find his daughter and take her home. Jamie thought that this was the trouble Lilie was talking about and that she needed a ride home. But when police officers pulled Jamie aside, he knew his life was about to change forever. See, the investigators received the anonymous call, and they made their way to the school before Jamie even caught word of something going on. And what they saw was a scene that could only be conjured up in someone's nightmares. Inside the gymnasium bathroom was a woman's lifeless body, and according to police, the woman was in her early 20s, but she had severe injuries to her face. The woman had been badly beaten, and the scene in the bathroom depicted an intense struggle. Tragically, the woman was immediately identified as 21-year-old Lilie James. What was so heartbreaking was a family friend had been the one to identify Lilie's body, and it's impossible to imagine what must have been going on through that person's mind. Seeing someone they were so close to in that state, it's unimaginable. As for Lilie's parents, it seemed as though their lives, they just stopped. Jamie couldn't believe what he was hearing. He'd just shown up to pick his daughter up and give her a ride home, but now his beloved, gentle, and bright little girl was laying lifeless on a cold bathroom floor. The James family was struck with a profound grief and unimaginable horror, as their peaceful night had now taken a dark and tragic turn. This case was front cover news for everyone in New South Wales. Usually, crimes in remote, dark, and less frequented areas are understandable, but in a highly prestigious school, it was unheard of. Shockingly, there wasn't any overnight security at the school, which is just unbelievable for such an expensive private school. You would think that a school with 1,450 students and ungodly high fees of between $23,000 and $41,000 per year per student would be able to afford overnight security personnel. But following Lilie's tragic passing, an investigation was launched immediately. But the investigators didn't have to look too hard to find out who took Lilie's life. A name kept popping up when talking to Lilie's family and friends, who were still reeling from the news of Lilie's sudden passing. It was none other than Lilie's ex-fling, Paul Thyssen. To add to the police's suspicion, they were made aware that the pair had broken up just a few days prior. So now the detectives were tasked with finding Paul. But where was he? This is where the CCTV cameras in the gymnasium and around the city proved to be helpful. With the school taped off for investigation, St. Andrews officials sent out emails to students that the school would be closed for the rest of the week, and this was due to a, quote, critical incident. The exams were also moved to other buildings, and the whole community of Sans Souci was on edge at the news of Lilie's death. While trying to figure out what happened to Lilie, the investigators first viewed the CCTV footage of the school gymnasium, and what they saw haunted them for life. The footage is known to be Lilie's last moments before her death, and what's even more alarming is that a man, possibly the perpetrator, was seen following Lilie. So on October 25th, Lilie was working all day coaching students, and at around 7 p.m., she was seen walking towards the gymnasium bathroom. Shortly after, a man was seen walking behind her, entering that same bathroom, and an hour went by without any other movement. But then, the man emerged, but Lilie didn't. You might have guessed already who that man was. Well, the detectives did too, and it was none other than Paul. Paul, the very person Lilie was romantically involved with and had broken up with just a couple days ago, had now apparently driven her to her end. The investigators had a bunch of questions at that point, such as why did Paul do this? Was it premeditated? And was there something more to the seething anger bubbling inside of Paul? But the police didn't have a lot of time. They needed to find Paul fast, and they needed answers. But while the investigators were out looking for Paul, they got wind of Paul's last location. But you may be asking, how? Well, remember the anonymous call made to the detectives and the text sent to Lilie's parents by Lilie's phone? Well, it was all Paul's doing. Analysts were able to track the location of the call, and it led them to Diamond Bay Reserve. Diamond Bay Reserve is a walkway of dangerous yet breathtaking cliffs that overlook the beautiful blue oceans of the area. But what was Paul doing there? Well, we don't know for sure, but CCTV footage did tell the investigators about Paul's movements that night. See, when the police got to Diamond Bay Reserve on October 26th, Paul was nowhere to be seen. So they decided to comb through surveillance footage, and soon they hit a jackpot. On October 25th, at around 8:47 p.m., Paul was seen parking a silver Lexus by the curb in the camera's vicinity. At 9:04 p.m., Paul was seen getting out of the car and walking the other way. He was seen carrying a bag and had a calm look about him, which is just terrifying to see after knowing what he had done just an hour prior. 8 minutes passed by, and by 9:12 p.m., Paul was walking back towards his car with nothing in his hands and was seen sitting in his car idly until 9:49 p.m., after which he drove off. The investigators knew that they had to check the area Paul was seen walking to, and when they reached that exact spot, there was a metal trash bin. The detectives knew exactly what they had to do. They searched the bin, and a hammer, along with some of Paul's personal belongings, including a pair of AirPods and a backpack, were recovered. Upon a quick examination, the detectives learned that the hammer was undoubtedly the murder weapon. But for now, the police were still looking for Paul. Meanwhile, Paul's silver Lexus was recovered at a nearby parking lot. The investigators ran the plates and found that Paul had rented the car. He used it to drive to St. Andrew's School on the morning of October 25th. Now, Paul already had a car, so why did he need to rent one and use it to drive himself to work on the same day that Lilie's body was found in the gymnasium bathroom? Well, the detectives had to worry about this later because Paul was still nowhere to be found. So had he fled to another city? Was he in hiding? Or worse, did he flee back to his home country of the Netherlands? Given his affluent and privileged background, this wasn't impossible for Paul to do. The investigators were fighting against the clock to find Paul because they didn't want him to run away from what he had done. He needed to be questioned and held accountable for his heinous actions. But no one could have ever prepared the police for what Paul had in store for them. And it would change the entire course of the case, but in the worst way possible. See, on October 28, 2023, at around 1 a.m., construction workers spotted something drifting and swaying on the water right by the huge rocks at The Gap. The Gap is infamous in Sydney, Australia. It's located at South Head, in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. And it's known as a spot for people ending their lives by jumping off the cliff and into the Tasman Sea. The investigators had a very bad feeling about this discovery, knowing that Paul's last location was just 5 minutes away from The Gap at the Diamond Reserve. At 9 a.m., detectives launched a recovery operation and used boats and helicopters to retrieve what looked like a man's body. But it wasn't going to be an easy task. See, the winds on that particular day were so strong that helicopters couldn't even reach the location safely, even after multiple attempts, because of the rough and raging waves. But by noon, with the help of jet skis, the body was finally recovered, and the area was sectioned off for investigation. Unfortunately, through dental records, the body was identified as that of 22-year-old Paul Thyssen. According to the police, it's believed that Paul arrived at the Gap at around 10 p.m. after taking Lilie's life, and there was a break of a couple hours before he contacted the police to let them know what he had done at about 11 p.m., after which it's believed he jumped off the cliff to his death. But the investigators, and everyone else for that matter, couldn't help but wonder, why? Why did Paul resort to such brutality and violence? Well, even though Paul didn't have a history of abuse or any criminal charges, he showed glimpses of the monster that he was when he lost control. Lilie's case became highly publicized, and it was also featured on 60 Minutes Australia. In that episode, though, an ex-girlfriend of Paul's came forward with a chilling occurrence. According to Paul's ex-girlfriend, who wished to remain anonymous, he had a tendency to obsess over where she was going, who she was with, and everything in between. At one point, she even tried to break things off with Paul, which caused him to lash out and punch a tree in a fit of rage. When she asked why he did such a thing, Paul's answer was a verbal red flag. He said, quote, "Because I can't punch the one thing I want to." If that wasn't scary enough, Paul also stalked her after this incident, and he was seen peering through her windows at one point. Once the ex-girlfriend noticed this and screamed, her dad proceeded to chase Paul away with a cricket bat. So it's pretty clear that Paul was hiding something very monstrous behind his handsome facade, and it slipped once he knew that things were out of his control. The detectives also investigated whether the attack on Lilie was premeditated or not, and once they dug deeper, their answer was right there. Remember the hammer used on Lilie? Well, the investigators found out that Paul had actually bought it from a local hardware store near his home just a few days before Lilie's attack, which would have been around the same time Lilie broke up with him. Also, the car that he rented says a lot about Paul's state of mind. According to criminal psychologist Tim Watson-Monroe, Paul had a clear mind when he rented a car, bought a hammer a few days before the vicious attack, and then tried to cover his tracks because he had an evil and clear intention: to end Lilie's life. It's believed that when Lilie broke up with Paul, he knew that he had no control over her, and he wanted to get back at her twice as hard. Paul was the type of person that always got what he wanted, and when Lilie resisted, he knew that he was at his limit. Keep in mind, though, that all of these are assumptions and it's speculation. We don't really know what was going through Paul's mind at that time leading up to the attack. But Paul's intentions and thought process seem pretty dang clear. But to top this off, texting Lilie's parents to come to the very place where their daughter was found lifeless is a different level of sick, if you ask me. You can't help but wonder if Paul did this specifically to torment and traumatize Lilie's family. It's just speculation, but if it's true, then Paul is the worst kind of evil, exposing a worried and terrified father to such a horrific scene. With Paul's death, any hope of getting closure for Lilie's tragic passing is gone too, and the James family is left in pieces for the rest of their lives, questioning what went wrong. It's the worst kind of feeling, not having the wrongdoer around even tell you why they did what they did. Jamie, Lilie's father, went on to express his grief, saying that he'll never forget the fateful night of October 25th as long as he lives. It's so tragic and heart-wrenching to see Peta and Jamie breaking down, remembering their lively and life-loving daughter. Peta, who was recently diagnosed with melanoma in both lungs, is going through the unimaginable. Not only is she uncertain about what lies ahead in her own life, but now she also has to live every day without hearing Lilie's voice. Now, not only is she struggling with these awful health issues, but she has a mountain of grief and understandable depression to contend with as well. And we all know that these feelings can make one's already bad health even worse. Lilie's funeral was held on November 17th of 2023, and she was mourned by hundreds of people who donned bright and floral clothes to symbolize Lilie at her best. Everyone remembered Lilie as a vibrant and amazing young woman whose life was cut short so abruptly. Jamie and Peta spend their days reminiscing about Lilie and their joyful memories with her. Whether it be a walk in the park, a stroll by the shore, or even in their home, Lilie is everywhere. Lilie's dad, Jamie, lives with a heavy heart. You can feel the anger and the rage he has for Paul because he refuses to even address him by his name and only calls him an evil monster. Even though that sadness and anger will never go away, the James family has decided to put it to good use, and right now they're advocating for better safety in relationships. The thing is, Lilie didn't have to lose her life, that much goes without saying. But the fact that she lost her life for literally no reason at all, that's what hurts the most about this situation, because one man's fragile ego and emotional instability caused two families to be left with one more empty chair around the dinner table. And that's not right. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of True Crime Stories. I wanted to give a special thank you to a couple channel members, including Bad Kitty and Kaylee Russell. If you also want to become a member of the channel, you'll gain access to new videos sometimes days or weeks before they're uploaded to the public. And it's currently the best way you can support the channel and help out. And I really appreciate all of you that have decided to do that. So if you want to join, you can click that big join button below the video or find the link down in the description. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, check out this other interesting case I covered, and don't forget to subscribe. It's totally free and keeps you up to date with all of my future videos. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.